prepare, train, and mobilize. And again, the internal goals of both sides were to build community, to train, and to prepare people. Okay? So outwardly, we focus on education and reaching out and gathering and increasing awareness and things like that. Inwardly, we are doing something simultaneously. So we're strengthening the Patriot community. We're building that network. We're building that ability to stand together across the state. And when they come finally and they say, this is what we want to do in New Mexico, and we say, what then? No. And we don't just roll over and we don't just line up and they herd us away like cattle somewhere. We say, no, we're not going that way. We draw a line in the sand and we say, no. And these are the reasons why. We have the most awesome heritage to draw from. We're not inventing any kind of new government. We're not advocating anything other than returning to what it was and should be. That should hopefully provide you a little bit of reassurance that we're not just some wacko group. I hope. The rest of this just narrows down to one of these circles, which has to do with what I would call, on the next page, you'll see it, I identified as a citizen auxiliary, which is simply a public interface. A public interface is a group of activists who are involved in all these different groups and the Patriot Alliance to promote the causes of liberty and to restore these principles in our nation. But as you heard some of the guys talking about, we have proceeded to develop this so that we have these three committees under that at this point that we're beginning to develop. The committees of safety. You know, in our American history, this is something similar. So we latched onto these ideas because we thought not only were they cool, but we thought they represented something very important. In our colonial days in America, our founding fathers created committees of safety, and they created committees of correspondence. And there was these other groups, the Sons and the Daughters of Liberty, and they all had particular functions that tied together with the people that were going to Parliament and advocating and appealing before the King and the Parliament, and they worked together with those who were involved in commerce, and they worked together with the people who were involved in the military, and they worked together with all the other branches of this broader movement. You see what I'm talking about? And they worked together. Now, I don't want you to be misled in thinking that somehow they had a perfect cohesive system, because that wouldn't be true if you know your history. But what I'm trying to convey to you is that we have to see this vision and work in that direction. And the closer we can get to it, the more effective we'll be and the more prepared we'll be. So the primary focus of these three different things, the committees of safety, as you see, there was preparation and defense. Okay? The committees of correspondence was a network across the colonies to dispel and pass along information to all the people everywhere, which is much of a challenge in those days. And so they were like the network between all of them for communication. And the Sons and the Daughters of Liberty were like support networks, and they tended to be very activist as well. And sometimes people crossed over between these groups, just like we do, you know. Anyway, we've worked on this process, and the last page shows you where we ended up, and I believe we talked about this in July, I'm sure, and began to work this out, and we're still in the process of working on it. And that is to take these things and start coming up with specific tasks and strategies to flesh this out, if you know any way. So the reason I took the time to do this right now is to bring you up to where we are today. Now we're wanting this to go further and deeper, and some of us that are involved already, we recognize our limitations. I cannot do all this myself. I do not want to do this all myself. This is going to be a broad team effort. This is an effort of the people. And every one of us has an